Hey, how are you? Now, normally I would do a presentation on doing, you know, a product review or what have you, but this time I have a special edition video for me to discuss something that I've had virtually all my life, and I didn't get diagnosed with this until almost 18 years ago. It's called Asperger syndrome, and now it's now being called Level 1 Autism by the Diagnostic Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, 5th edition, that came out in 2000. Why they did such a thing, I have no clue, but you get the picture. So, anyhow, without further ado, let's get on with it. Anyhow, to start, I was born in the mid 70s, and fast forward to 2003. I've had many careers. I've gone through I've been through a community college. Right behind me is the community college I graduated, which is Seneca College. And I've worked previous jobs. I've worked as a computer tutor, welding assistant, um, as well as a few other jobs in between. I only had like 3 or 4 jobs, and that was it. However, one day in 2003, I was getting scores of jobs, but no interviews. Who discovered I had Asperger's syndrome? A friend of the family, believe it or not, and she's a social worker. The social worker, God bless her, she realized something was up with me, and I basically thought to myself, you know what? Let's see where this is going to go. My apologies, that was my phone ringing. I never picked that up. That's on my family's end. But anyhow, getting back to this. Bottom line, I went to see a therapist who has about maybe over 20 years of experience dealing with people with Asperger's syndrome. So I went to the initial meeting with my sister, my dad, my mom, and yours truly. And we basically discussed what I've endured and all these other things. I was writing these things down. So one day, on that faithful day on February 2003, all the occupants except me and the therapist, and he gave me a nice talking to, and he said, I have reason to believe you got Asperger's syndrome. I said to him in a comedic manner, does this mean my ass is full of burgers? I'm sure some of you are getting a good laugh out of it. But it's no laughing matter when you have this, so it's better to lighten up at that moment and then later on discover the journey you're going to embark. Well, it was a long journey, all right. It was 6 to 8 months long. So it's from February to October, that's technically 8 months. Every 6 weeks, I got to see the guy. And the only thing I can say is that, oh well, it's just time to be with a professional who can figure me out. Well, 8 months later, the psychologist got called in to do the assessment. Lo and behold, I got diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome. And based on the research I did, all of it was relating to me. Chronic loners, brutal honesty, bluntness, as well as really good workers in their profession. Don't have much of a social life. They're not in intimate relationships with anyone. The families have a very hard time, emotional wise, because they don't understand why their child or the adult in the family does not function like them, or they're not normal. So, long story short, I got the diagnosis, and I was working volunteer at the time. I did something I shouldn't have done, and I got let go. The employer, who has connections with the social skills agency, said, I want you to go there, and it's going to change your life. And it did. I learned everything from non-social verbal communication, researching certain things, understanding people, empathy, the whole 10,000 yards. And believe me, if I didn't take that course, I still would be lost in translation. Once in a while I do, but not all the time. Anyhow, so the only thing I can say is based on what I've endured, my advice to you, if you have this condition, are the following. Social skills training, very important, because if you don't, you're not going to be like the rest of the people you work with. You're going to be lost in translation. You don't even understand certain things. And if you don't understand anything, just ask them, what does that mean? Doesn't hurt. But if you're not part of the program or you don't get the big picture, that's when people will look at you as the odd person out. So social skills training is a must. Try to understand how people are feeling based on their body language and other stuff like that. It can really make you a better person if you're empathetic, not apathetic, which most people in my condition really don't understand. So keep that in mind. If you're with someone with this condition and you're an employer or you work with them, number one, try to explain it to them as thorough as you can. Let them ask questions so they can clarify. If they don't get it the first two times, that's normal. The third time, then you have to be patient. So time and patience are their best friends, and try to understand they're human beings and try to be in their shoes. You never know. You could have a best friend waiting right there and then. So other than that, if you're in a relationship with one of them, give them time, figure them out, and you never know what's going to happen down the road. So we are the smartest loners on the face of this planet who've never been given a fair shot. I went to the social skills training thing. Not only did I get social skills training, I got jobs I won't soon forget. I worked on the carts as a front end service clerk for about 17 months in a major grocery store. Something happened to me I'm not willing to discuss that got me to a different job. I worked at a major tourist attraction for one term, like 6 months. That did me a world of good, and I absolutely loved it. It was my dream job. Would I go back to it? Absolutely. Then I worked at a major mall for 3 seasons, and it was huge. Lots of people were going through there, a bit overwhelming at times, but I got training, which really did me a world of good so I can understand where the stores are, how the employees are, the people are. It's basically, you're in this huge city, and it's basically the mecca of everything. People from out of town will come to this place because of the stores and the prestige of the stores, as well as how big this thing is. Even if you're not buying anything, walking around is a chore. Believe me, I've been there several times, and when I left the place as a guest services associate, let's just say you couldn't get any better than that. I do respect the two employers I've been at because I frequent them and it brings back a lot of good memories. Now, I'll be hitting 45 years old, not very long from now. And I look back and I said, the jobs I had previously, they mean a lot. And speaking of jobs, I've been in my current job as a cashier in a major supermarket for about 13 years. The end of this month will make 13. I'm also a union steward, which makes things a lot more interesting. That means I get to sit down and hear what's going on from the department manager or the manager to the coworker to see if something is fishy is going on. I got training, but not the best, but at least enough that I can understand what I'm dealing with here. I also did some courses online, which make me a lot more, how should I say, more skilled at what I do. So, with everything being said up until now, Asperger syndrome is not such a bad thing. Now, not very long ago, there was a guy with my condition who years ago ran down a few people, killing 10, injuring 16, and he got life in prison. And he had my condition. Now, that says volumes as to how the law is being formed around people who commit murders. Now, personally, theoretically, under law, if someone is not of a sound mind and they didn't know what they were doing was wrong, then they would be institutionalized in a psychiatric ward. But in this case, he had rage, anger, he hated society, he knew what he was doing, but he didn't plan it, he just did it on the fly. For that, I hope he pays dearly for what he did, and he did. Now, I couldn't care less about his status in jail. I don't care about this individual. But when you have my condition, you commit an offense, shame on you, badly. So, anyhow, this is Asperger syndrome in my perspective. So, hopefully, if you have any comments, let me know. And take care of yourself.